just interesting.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Sorry I'm late. Technical difficulties.
Oh, good.
Okay, so I am hitting live on Facebook. Let me just see how to do this really
I'll
quick.
share it when I see it.
Yeah, I'm like, bear with me. Okay.
Let me go into my castle.
Hey, what should I like name this, Diary?
It is called an intentional conversation. So we are, just doing a parent, wellness. Like, I don't know if you read the post. It's supposed to be your truth, your realness, and this, we're not sugarcoating anything. Just, that is, we're not putting all of our business out there, but at the same token, I just want everybody to be real, to be perfectly honest, and share as much as you want to share. I'm not going to exploit anybody or ask any crazy questions that I know of.
I have a crazy question.
I was gonna say there's no such thing.
Like that I know of. All right, let's see what's happening. I can see what's happening. All right.
What?
Let me do this. Our first intentional. All right, everybody is officially on Facebook. Our first intentional conversation. And let's go live. Let's just leave it like that. Add a title. I just added. Okay, let me add a title. Intentional. I hope my nose don't start itching as soon as I go live. Intentional conversation. Numero uno. All right. All right, now my go live button went dead. Okay, here we go. So, hang on, let me do it to my Instagram really quick. It's a lot easier to do through Instagram.
Facebook let me know when everybody else go live, but it didn't let me know when you went live.
Well, it's the little yogis. Okay, so I think we're live. I'm gonna just go ahead and start talking. Can anybody see it? Anybody?
Yeah, I see it. I see it.
Okay,
I'm about to share it now.
Good. Okay, so we are live with our first intentional conversation. Hi! And I want everybody to just introduce themselves. Me and Rashawn, we like to kind of rattle off our hats. So, I'm Diari, aka Ari, aka Little Yogi's yoga instructor, mom of two crazy, unique, zany girls, daughter, sister of, 7 or 9.
7 or 9.
you know how that goes. No. I am the left-handed, clumsy, awkward one, poet, and I'm gonna leave it there. All right, Darius, go ahead.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm Darius. I am a sister of Diari's. I am a recent new grad from Georgetown University. I am officially a midwife, a certified nurse midwife. Yeah, and I have 3 lovely boys and a husband, and I'm known as the one that just speaks my mind and say whatever I got to say. I've been told that I give what's the word, brash advice, but if I'm really your friend, I'm gonna tell it like it is. So that's me.
All right, Marley.
Sorry, I was on mute. I'm Marley. I have 3 boys, 14, 7, and 4. So clearly I'm not a new mom. I don't know. I just recently graduated from school for cosmetology. So I'll be going to get my license really soon. And I'm winging it, literally.
Aren't we all?
But it's been a fun experience as a mom. Lots of learning things. I think I apologize to my mama more now than I should have when I was a teenager, but it happens. And that's me.
All right, Rashawn.
Well, first, I want to say, hi, Marley. I think this is the first time I'm meeting you.
Hi, nice to meet you.
I do know Doris. I know her well. But I'm Rashawn. I am Diari's friend. We've been friends probably about 12 years now. Let's see. I'm quiet. I used to think I was shy, but I don't think I'm very shy. I think I'm just quiet. Let's see. Creative. I'm a pretty good listener. That's actually who I am in my family too. I'm a 5th of 7, and I'm the listener. I'm the one everyone comes to when they need a shoulder. And I think I'm like that with my friends too. This is a really awkward question, by the way, but it's good in a good way. Questions like these, they make you really think about who you are and who you present and how different they are. Like people probably don't know that I'm actually very creative, that I do just kind of I'm very good at just kind of making things up. I was always my nieces and nephews, their favorite babysitter, but no one would know it from, interacting with me on a regular basis.
Let me ask them. I think you're lying. Let me be the judge. No.
Well, claim your creativity because I don't have a creative bone in my body. So.
And I am extremely creative.
She is.
You don't ever listen. So.
She is very, very creative, and she is a great listener. Everything she said is very true about her. I am the talker, so when you are the talker, sometimes you've learned a very bad habit, and that's like to jump in and kind of over talk sometimes. And sometimes it is like not listening, you're just responding, you're reacting. And so yeah, I am definitely that person. So yeah, I mean, but we are a tag team, which kind of leads to our like the first question that I want to ask, which is, in becoming a mom, how is it when you are so different from your children?
That's a good question. And you know what? It's funny because I just said that I don't have a creative bone in my body, but literally the first thing that popped in my head was, this is where you get creative. So I guess this is where my creativity comes in. Like, I'm not good at doing artsy fartsy stuff, and that's not to knock on anybody's crafts that they love to do or anything. That's just my word or whatever. So I'm not good at doing that stuff. I'm not that Pinterest mom that makes the the cute little lunch boxes and stuff like that. But when it comes from me being different from my kids, like, you learn to adjust. You have to get creative because you don't want them to feel like they're weird or, like they don't fit in or anything like that. So you learn to adjust and you learn to like, not that you like it, or you at least learn to pretend that you like the things they like, right?
Yes, right, exactly. Oh my goodness. What about you, Marlena? I mean, you guys have boys, so I imagine that it's a different atmosphere in your houses.
I'm sorry, Marlena. I know she just clued you in, but I will say this because I have 3 boys. I am such a tomboy, though. I am not a girly girl. So for me, like, my life couldn't be any better. Like, I honestly wouldn't know what to do with a girl, especially if she was a girly girl. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Marlene.
You see that? I just sprinkled dust on you guys.
Some girly stuff.
Yes. Pixie dust. Pixie dust. Full of lots of glitter. No.
I don't know. I think I feel a little different because I see a lot of myself in all 3 of my kids. It's just like a different part of me. Mm-hmm. Like Elijah is my quiet one, but he's feisty. The more he like gets in touch with himself, the more feisty he gets. And I think that that's me from like stories that my mom and dad told me when I was younger, that I spoke my mind a lot. And so I think that part is Solomon. And then Jordan is like my twin, literally. I think we can probably say that we grew up together because I was a teenage mom. And so, but I see a lot of myself in them to where it's like, I see the difference that they have, but it's not so contrasting that it's like, oh my God, like, why are you like this? No, like, I literally see so much of myself in them.
So what is the funniest thing that you've learned about raising a boy? Like maybe something they've said or something they do where you're like, that is so different from
they are emotional,
but just being a girl. Oh,
yes,
they are very emotional. And I think the misconception that I had, because growing up in a house full of boys, because I have 4 brothers, and then I was the only girl and the youngest, I didn't really see my brothers get emotional like that. But now that I have sons, I'm like, oh my God, what's wrong with y'all? Like, what
are emotional
what
and dramatic. I thought that I was missing, like, they say, oh, the preteen ages, when you have girls in the teenage years, those are the years that's rough. And with Anton, he's my oldest, he's 12. And I'm seeing things, I'm like, I thought I wouldn't have to deal with this. Like, what is this? Like, the attitude and the, like, whoa. And then the dramatics over, like, the simplest things. And I'm like, dude. And this goes for all 3 of them. All 3 of them are super dramatic. But, and again, like, it goes back to what you were saying, Marlena. You see yourself in them. And sometimes it's the things that frustrate you most about them. Like, I can't even get mad at you because that's me.
Yep.
I can definitely attest to that for sure.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I was actually also going to go back to. I think that's typically what happens, because that's something that my mother said. She was just like, she sees herself in all her kids. But when you are so different, as with anyone, you find a common ground. You find something that you have in common. And I think that with kids, it's a lot easier because you love them. And so you want to find that. It's not so easy with people, you work with somebody, we just don't have anything in common. But that's actually not true. And another thing with boys being very emotional, I think it's kind of one of the things in society that they teach them not to be.
Yeah.
So actually are extremely emotional.
And
They are very.
but I actually tell my boys, and this is something that we do that's big. I tell them it's okay for you to be mad. It's okay for you to be
Yeah.
sad. It's okay for you to be happy and for you to feel whatever you're feeling. Like I want you to, because that's normal. But let's talk about how we're going to act to these feelings.
Express that.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that's where I feel like, especially in the Black community, I feel like you kind of walk a thin line, because especially in the Black community, our Black men are taught you don't show emotion, you don't cry, you don't, you know what I'm saying? And that is not something I want to teach my boys.
And
Yeah.
on top of that, so while boys are being taught that, women, I remember growing up that we were being taught about men that they are supposed to behave a certain way to be a man. So then when they do show emotion and they do show their feelings and they are very expressive, it's kind of like, wait, hang on, like you're less than because you're doing this. And so I think that it's almost like a double-edged sword. Like we have to also teach the women that it is okay. We're not feminizing men. It's human. We all bleed. If you fall, whether you're a man or a woman, it's gonna hurt. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. That's really important. That's a very important lesson, because it's so unhealthy when you teach a child to repress their emotions and repress themselves, because it comes out in very negative ways.
Absolutely.
And that's, things that like last a lifetime, just from teaching, you're not supposed to cry. You got to manage, that's such a hurtful thing.
So that kind of leads me to my next question, which is, what do you see in your kids that you feel like, ooh, I know I gave you that, and I wish I didn't? I know that's me. With me, like Leanna, she is, very outspoken. She's very sassy. She's very girly. But something that I've realized too is that she sometimes has this almost like panic about her, where she's like, I gotta hurry up. I gotta do this. I gotta, and I'm like, no, let's slow down. But I feel like I almost project that onto her, because that is how sometimes I live my life. Well, like I'm like, all right, we gotta hurry up. We gotta get to the store. We gotta do this. We gotta do that. And not realizing that I'm doing it to her at all. I mean, until this point where I've become very more observant of it. But it's just like, so now I've slowed down a lot, and I tell her, no, I'm not. We don't have to rush. We don't have to do this. But I realize that is also something that my mom, Carol, that she had, this panicky kind of nature, and I'm like, and I inherited it, and now I'm giving it to her, and I'm like, ooh, how can I stop this? And it is becoming more. I'm becoming more aware of it. I feel like how to kind of prevent her to really developing that. But so that's what I mean. Like, so there's my question to you guys.
One that I can think of offhand is just, and I don't know if I would necessarily say that he has anxiety, but I know for me, my shyness, at least that's what it came off as. It was more, I know Marlena, but for folks that don't know me, or folks like first getting around me, I am actually a very shy person. I promise y'all I am.
Okay. My family is very introverted, very much so.
But I get anxious around people, and around, especially if it's like a large group of people, or if I'm meeting somebody for the first time, like my anxieties are running high. And like I said, I can't say that it's anxiety for Anton, but I notice that he tends to kind of pull back when he's meeting people, So I try to encourage him to speak up. You got to speak up. You got to use your voice. You got to, command a room. You got to walk in. And when you're, meeting your teachers, for example, he has his 6th grade, his middle school orientation last year or whatnot. And as he was meeting his teachers, he was just kind of walking up and kind of standing there, just like, and I'm like, no, look them in the eye, shake their hands, tell them my name loud and clear. My name is Anton. You know what I'm saying? And I think that he get that hesitation, if you will, from me. So.
Hi.
Is that Solomon?
That's Elijah.
Oh.
That's the baby boy.
Hey, Elijah.
He ain't no baby no more.
You can't tell him that. Say bye.
Never the last
Okay,
one.
go.
Never the last one. You can't ever tell the last one that. Or the third to the last one.
Hold on, that's me.
For those that are live with us, Doris is the third to the last one. She is my younger sister.
I was like the third. Hold on.
I was like, what you trying to say?
Oh, I'm always the baby. I'm the baby. Like Warren and Denisha, I'm sorry, but I'm the baby.
Yeah, Doris has been the baby for life. For life.
I've always been the favorite.
Yes. So mom's over 30.
Mom's over 30?
Yeah. Are you over 30?
Yes.
You look like, girl, you don't know my age.
I'm 31. I'll be 32 this year.
So she's officially in her 30s, so she counts.
Officially in her 30s. Okay, so mom's over 30. When did you realize that we're not cool anymore? No, just
Listen, I realized by trying to keep up with these little TikTok videos that I may not be as cool as I thought.
When it takes me all day to do one video, and it ain't even the dancing ones. See, that's the problem. That's the problem.
Yeah. And then it's so funny because I see the patterns. So like when we were growing up, like we would put on our music in the car, you know, wherever we was listening to music, and Karen Bill, that's my parents, Karen Bill would be like, y'all don't know real music, you know, what is this trash y'all listening to? And when I started repeating some of the same things that my parents start saying, I'm like, dang, what am I turning into? I mean, just 3 years ago when we bought our house, I remember yelling at the boys, and I'm like, keep your hands off the walls. And I'm like, you know what? Now I know why my dad used to tell us that all the time, because everywhere I look, I see little sticky fingerprints everywhere. And I'm like, why do y'all have to touch the wall? I'm like, gosh, I sound too much like my parents. This is ridiculous.
I came in the house today. I've not been to Walmart for almost maybe 3 or 4 months, and I brought Leanna with me, and I was like, wow, she turned into one of those kids that asks for everything. I was like, I walked in the door, and I said, you're never going anywhere else with me, ever again. Yeah, I didn't think she would be that kid, but she is officially in the zone. I was just like, wow. Yeah, no, I think I realized I was like, you know, trailing off the cool zone when I got excited about Drop Dead Fred.
Oh my God.
Dude, that's something I do. I try to make the boys watch things that I've watched and enjoyed as a child, and they be looking at me like,
yeah, that's
no, this ain't it, mommy. Like,
Okay, I do get cool points back for getting Layla love. She does love the original Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and she loves Thriller. So I get some cool points for that.
Okay. But yeah, Lay's a different child though. This is the same child who was a year old, barely walking and doing tree pose.
Yeah.
So I can't even put her in the same category with other children. I just can't. I can't.
She's very unique. I had to explain to her today about makeup. Like, she cannot put it on everywhere we go. It's only now for special occasions. If she's not mature enough for that, I will have to take it from her. Yeah, I tried to, you know, and this can lead me into my next question. I tried to give her the freedom to express herself. I never wanted to give her certain levels of insecurity with things. So even when we're being positive about something, sometimes I still feel like it could backfire per se. And so, I remember growing up how my dad, Bill, who we call Bill, he would always say, I don't know why you want to put that makeup on your face. Are you hiding? Why are you hiding? And of course he was trying to just get me to be natural. And he was saying, you have a natural beauty. You don't need it. But he was, sorry, brash. And so, and so he didn't know how to necessarily express that as well as he could. But then I think that, then for me growing up, I kind of hid the fact that I loved makeup because I felt like, okay, well, this means I'm hiding something. This means like I, don't like my natural beauty. This means I'm not like my mother or all the beautiful women that don't need makeup. And so then you develop this almost like this complex. So when I saw that Leanna had a love for makeup, I was just like, wow, like, okay, I'm going to let her roll with this, and, all kids need boundaries. As you saw, her and Emma's sleepover with the makeup catastrophe. And I was just like, okay, I have to lay down the law here. When this morning she ran back and she was just like, I was like, what were you doing? She was like, oh, I was just putting on makeup. Dude, you're 4. Like, I'm like, no. I told her this morning, it's a wrap, kids. Like, I love you, but I need you to love yourself without that. And I didn't know, I guess I was so afraid of saying that to her. Then I created the same complex. And so that leads me to what I want to ask now is, what are some things where you feel like you had to create boundaries with per se, or, where you felt like you didn't have to create a boundary with that maybe you had when you were a child?
I think mine is the opposite, where when I was younger, I had more freedom because the world was a lot different. So like, and that's one of the reasons why I moved to the city that I live in now, because my kids can have the freedom that I had when I was younger, where we could go walk around the block. You remember those days?
Mm-hmm.
And not be concerned about getting snatched up or, anything happen. I mean, we did our dirt.
Okay, so wait, really quickly, just comment on that. There were so many dangers when we grew up that I feel like, yes, they're more prevalent. It seems like they're more prevalent now, but are they more prevalent because we have social media and we can see it, and so we know how more real it is? Or did it really just not, was it really just not as bad? And so I look back and I'm like, actually, we probably shouldn't have been doing half the things that we were doing.
I was about to say, I think we were so naive to it.
Yeah.
Because I think there was a lot of stuff. I mean, like, I didn't realize that we grew up in the hood until I was grown. Like, we lived in the hood. Marlena, Pine Glen Circle was the hood. For everybody that grew up, if anybody is watching that grew up in Pine Glen Circle, you grew up in the hood, bruh. Like,
yeah, Mercer Woods was the hood. I still think.
I thought we were living lavish, honey.
Oh, so did I.
I don't know that I would say I thought we was living lavish, but
in my eyes, the way my parents put it,
I was naive to the fact.
Yeah.
Now that I hear other people talk about Glen, if I mention anything about Glenwood, Decatur, Covington Highway, anything, they're like, "Oh my God."
Okay, wait.
Have you been back there recently?
Yeah.
It's even worse.
Some parts are worse, but they are rebuilding some parts, and the houses are going up. So I feel like buy a house now, and then maybe in 10 years, if you survive it and don't get shot.
I'm good. You couldn't even pay me to live in DeKalb County, bro. Like,
yeah, no, I know. Trust me. Yeah.
I'm good.
I love DeKalb. I love Decatur, but I don't think I want to live there.
Not maybe if I was older and didn't have any kids, like, or like my kids was grown or something, because I know you could get some pretty decent houses for decent prices,
Yeah.
but for me it's not like where we grew up, specifically Decatur, Stone Mountain, Lithonia. That's not somewhere I want to raise my kids.
Yeah, well, even Main Street in Stone Mountain has gone down tremendously. I look over there and I'm just like, wow, like this used to be really nice. And well, was it really nice? No, like, was it really nice? I don't know. You know? And now I've driven through that. It just looks so run down. I'm like, oh my goodness.
I think because of the difference in the side of Glenwood that we lived on, I think because of it was almost like we lived in the better side of it because we were like in the houses. It looked completely different now than when we were there. It's like the houses weren't run down and stuff like that, and it wasn't every fifth house was something. But
yeah, think about our parents though. We're also the homeowners now. So all the bad kids that we were when we were younger are now the ones that own the houses there.
I think it.
hot mess.
Hotmess.com.
So needless to say, it's like us being naive to what we were really around. And I think now they have more exposure or more avenues to be exposed to stuff. I think my precaution level has like skyrocketed as to where my parents, they really didn't have to, because it was almost hard to get to stuff. Like it was a secret, but now everything's just out in the open, to where even like where there's like pornography or something like that, with especially with boys, it was like back then it was like somebody in the neighborhood had a video or a thing, but you had to go to this person to get it or to even be exposed to it. But now it's like it's at the click of a button. Everything's technology, so it's like it's exposing the children to more, and it's also enlightening us more on what is really out there, as to where some people were not necessarily naive to it. Some people just really didn't know it was happening because it wasn't particularly happening to them. So like now it's like we're dealing with it all because everybody's exposed to it and everybody is dealing with it.
Yeah.
I didn't know what a fupa was until I got one, and then I was just like, oh my goodness.
What is it?
Do not say that. I'm sorry. Do not say. I will text it to you and look it up.
Okay.
Anybody that doesn't know what a fupa, go to urbandictionary.com. Okay, or go to TikTok and just type it in. You'll see a lot of funny videos.
So the politically correct term, and it's not even politically correct, but I won't use the bad term, but it's the fat upper pubic area. So you can imagine that pubic word is used for something else, right?
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
So that's what a fupa is.
I say that as a joke, just to keep things light. But yeah, I do agree that, and then I think also maybe our parents experienced harder than what was going on at the time when we were kids. So they were a little bit more laxy-daisy because they were like, well, Dahmer's in jail.
I think they were thinking things got better.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily that things got better. It's just that new things started occurring.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that plus there's also the idea of, the evils of the world, they exist over there. And like you have this image, like when you think about what a child molester looks like, you have this image of what it could be. And now, we know, well, that's anyone, because there was a lot of not really talking about things at the time. So that, that added to it. But yeah, when you think about it, I mean, Like I remember, like in the summer, we would go outside in the morning and not come back till dark, and just be out all day. We wanted to eat, we would eat at some friend's house, and that would just be fun. That's just how it was. That's how everybody did.
Well, hang on, Rashawn. My parents did teach us not to be eating at other people's house, though.
Yeah. Hey,
Well,
DR, we have a couple of questions on Facebook.
Okay, rattle them
Um,
off.
Warren says, "What do you consider to be Black culture? Is it something we were given or created, and do you feel we've accepted any damaging stereotypes?"
Mm.
Oh, that is a loaded question.
That is
It
loaded.
is.
I do believe there is Black culture,
Absolutely.
I do believe that we all have taken part in creating it as each decade has changed. And, and I guess the funny thing is, it's just like, it's almost like Black culture is trying to define like hip hop in a very poetic way, like metaphorically. So let's say, you look over the years of hip hop or look over the years of R&B. Start with the 70s and you think about how the 70s were with R&B in the 80s and the 90s, and then up until, today, and how much they've transformed. But R&B is still, technically R&B, if that makes sense. And so I feel like we've kind of created this wave of Black culture, and it evolves with each generation. Whereas, you think of, let's say, and I hope I don't say anything that's not politically correct, but let's say you look at the Latino culture and you think of like maybe the merengue or the tango, that has like, it might have descended from another like African culture or another culture, but as far as mainstream goes right now, most people would think of, when you think of tango or merengue or those type of dances, you think, okay, this is the Latin culture. But when you think of Black culture, it's almost a little bit more ambiguous because we evolve I feel like every generation. So when I look at the dances today, it's like, man, those are amazing dances. I per se might not know how to do them, but at the same time, I feel like that still defines that hip hop culture that aren't, you get what I'm saying? Like how R&B has evolved, and, and soul food has even evolved. We have created kind of like that vegan wave of soul food. And so it's just like, I feel like, yeah, Black culture is very real. I don't know if I answered the question.
I think, okay. I think the idea of Black culture has been tainted so much that I don't really think the kids today really know what Black culture is.
Okay, let me like just add on to that really quick. So when we were younger, my dad would be like, "You don't even know why you're putting that mascara or that eye makeup on. You don't even know why you're wearing your hair like that." And so they fall into the Black culture. They just don't really know why they're doing it or where it came from. It's just like they're doing everything that we've always done, but it's just like,
but don't know why.
They don't know why. They don't know why they're so fluid in the dances that they do. Why it comes so naturally. Well, it comes so naturally, just like how if you were a young Latino kid that grew up around their parents just doing the merengue in the living room, how that is a natural dance for you. So that's why it just comes so naturally, this rhythmic, this ability. You know what I mean?
So like, I think American, mainstream America has turned Black culture into trends, and that's why they don't really know what Black culture is. They just like, a couple years ago, the trend of the dashiki came out, and it was whenever something shows up in the flea market, it has now become a trend. It is no longer something authentic. It is no longer something that is cultured. It is now a trend. Because anybody, I saw an ad on Groupon of some non-Black people with dashikis on.
Yep.
And I was like, course, it was like a Photoshop thing on there. Huh?
Marlena, I said I actually made a post about this a few years ago when Black Panther came out. And everybody was going to buy their African gear and stuff, which is great. Okay, great. And a trend it was, right? But my thing was, why are you going to the beauty supply store getting African gear, like African paraphernalia? Like, that just makes no sense. You're doing it for the trend.
Yeah, I was going
to say, even now with today and everything that's going on now, people are saying, all of a sudden I'm getting ads on Facebook for Juneteenth flags and stuff like that. Cool, I support it. I want me a Juneteenth flag, but I don't want it from somebody that does not look like me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you're doing it purely for profit, and you're not doing it because you understand my culture. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Exactly.
I can understand that. What was the go ahead, Rashawn. I want to just hear the tail end of that question though.
Yeah, that was what I wanted to touch on, whether or not we have accepted stereotypes, and what was the rest of it?
He said, is Black culture something we were given or created, and do you feel we've accepted any damaging stereotypes?
I don't like watermelon or collard greens.
Well, here's the thing.
I personally don't like fried chicken.
I don't even want to hear that, but this is what I wanted to say about that. But two things actually, now that you bring that up. But the first thing is that yes, we've accepted damaging stereotypes, but it's not just us. I mean, it's a product of being a minority in the society, and not just like minorities, like, you know, as in, and not like, you know, not Black people, non-Black people, but an actual minority. Like when you're fewer than the majority controls media output, what it is you get to read, what it is you get to see, what it is you get to ingest. And they're the ones that set, what does this look like? What does that look like? What are the differences? And one of the things is a lot of the media and propaganda that we see and that we, you know, learn to internalize, it wasn't made for us. It was made about us, but just because we're there, I mean, essentially, you know, to put it brashly, you know, they were teaching white kids about Black people. And that's what we had to ingest as well. So it's kind of like, how do you not accept that? That's something that you have to unlearn as you grow up. You know, that's something that we all have to unlearn as we grow up. But the first step to doing that is saying, well, yeah, I did believe that. Because the thing is that what's wrong with liking watermelon and fried chicken? There's nothing wrong with that. Those two things are delicious. You know, Black people are not the only ones who love that.
Right.
Oh, I know. Yeah, so I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but on playing, well, this isn't playing devil's advocate, but on the negative side of certain things, like for instance, you know, before we made this call, I was so nervous about my little fro, and you know, it took me a long time, and a lot of Black girls a long time to, especially that grew up in the 90s, where red bones, you know, light skin with the, you know, nice hair, and you know, they were the in thing, you know. And so it's just like growing up during that time, it's like I grew a huge complex about my hair. I mean, up until it took having a child to break me out of it. And so that Leigh is almost 4, so you can see that took me up until 4 years ago to kind of get out of that mode. It took her running to the door and saying, mommy, you're forgetting your wig, for me to be like, first of all, I don't want you to think that I can't leave the house without this thing on. Secondly, I don't want you to not love your little bald head. I mean, she was so bald that it was unbelievable. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, I don't want you growing up like that. And I stopped. I just completely stopped. I cut off. I took the weave out. I was like, I'm done. But even after doing it, it took me a second to like, even like being around my clients, being around people that always saw me in a certain light. No one even knew what my real hair looked like. And even now I go to the store and I'm looking at, reading some of the products and, it takes me a second to even accept the word kinky. Is my hair kinky? Like that sounds close to nappy. That sounds close to bad hair, and so your brain goes there. And these are the things that over time I feel like, yeah, there was no way not to kind of accept it, because that was all that was available at the time too. You know what I mean? Like growing up, it was just like the dark skinned girls with the nappy hair. That was the only, that like, it wasn't, I never heard about it was a very rare thing to see a black girl with long straight hair that was natural. It was naturally like that. That was a very rare thing. So now it's like, even the natural movement, when people be like, oh, I'm a natural, I'm with the natural movement, I kind of giggle and laugh, because I'm like, well, I've been natural my entire life.
Right, that part.
Yeah. So
Yeah. It's like, when you think about it, it actually is kind of sad that, there had to be a natural movement.
Like, or the big booty implants, when I'm like, man, I've been trying to get rid of this thing, and now this is the end thing. Like, hang on, I'm confused. Growing up in the 90s, I felt like it was the skinny girls that got the attention, and now it's like, the end thing is the thick girls. And I was just like, hang on, times are changing. So what do you accept? What is the curvy, thick, girls? Is that Black culture? Are they, describing us? And it's funny, because I feel like thick and curvy, just to touch on that, for any other culture is such a beautiful thing. But for the longest, I felt like for the Black culture,
nope. I had the school, and mind you, most of my jobs, I've been the only person that looked like me, surrounded by a whole bunch of Caucasians, right? And I had the school one night. I remember very, very clearly one night I was like, see, for somebody to tell, and I'm just going to say Becky, right, that she has a big butt, that's going to hurt Becky's feelings, because she don't want a big butt.
Yeah,
but if you tell Darice she got a big butt, I'm about to go do a little twerk for you. Hey!
I see what you mean by that. But I mean, like, when I think like of the Latino girls, Brazilian, cultures where it's known for them to be bigger, and it's so accepted, and then it's just like, I think about, growing up, and maybe that was also a parenting complex that my parents gave me. Growing up, it was just like, you do not want to be over 120 pounds, so again, I don't know. It's a mix of a little bit of everything. Any more questions? Because I want to do a lightning round before we kind of taper off.
No, I think that was it. He was just saying that social constructs are limiting and damaging the self-growth. That was early on in our conversation, though.
Got you. Okay. So I want to do a lightning round. These questions are more so pertaining to parenting, but this is just, and it won't be the same every week, but this is just a lightning round. I want you to just rattle off the first thing that comes to mind. Okay, don't think about it. Just answer honestly, truthfully, All right, here we go. The first question is, came home, saw one of your kids having sex.
Oof. I honestly don't know what I would do. Me and Brenton have sat around and talked about this, like different scenarios, but it's probably gonna be a scene. It's probably gonna be a scene. Like, I'm talking about pulling up, like, I'm throwing clothes, get your ass dressed, we going to your mama house, and yeah. Yeah.
Marlena?
First of all, I'm a fighter. And
Wait, but
as
who you
much as
fighting
I
with?
want to
Meaning your
be
son or the girl or whoever?
whoever I hit first, they both getting beat.
They both getting beat.
I got a nice little belt in here. That'll be the first and last whooping he got for as a teenager. Yeah. Mhm.
Rashawn, do you have any questions?
I do. I have lots of questions. Okay, my first one is kind of actually a serious one. You get a phone call telling you have to tell your child their best friend just committed suicide.
You would go dark.
You know, I would approach it like I approach all serious conversations with my kids.
Yeah.
Like you know, having to talk to them about racism, having to talk to them about sex, having to talk to them about, you know, whatever these hard conversations, right? And I would honestly just sit them down and just kind of let it out in as gently as possible, you know. And I would encourage them to speak their feelings like I always do. You know, speak your feelings, ask me any questions that you might have on whatever I just told you, you know.
I actually had this to happen, but the child didn't. They survived. But to tell him about like what happened really hurt him because the person was very close to them or is very close to them. And I think I guess set the platform for him to be able to express his emotions. It was a little difficult because I was expecting him to like break down, and I was like prepared for it because you really never know even how they're going to react to something so serious as that. So it's like just being prepared for whatever and not inflicting any type of emotion on them and like not forcing them to like process it in this very moment. But then coming back in the end, and I think because the child actually survived the situation, I think it made it easier. But still, the fact that they attempted to take their life was something that was more impactful for him. And like after, it was like, I guess more conversations came behind that where he opened up to me to tell me that he thought about taking his own life before. And that was really hard for me to you know, to process myself. But it did give an open door. It's like, you know, life is not all fun and games, and it's not all him getting in trouble for something. Like, it's other things that, you know, he can talk to me about, you know.
Right.
Yeah, that is a tough one, but any serious conversation I have with Leon, I go into, and I hate to, um, project my own opinion about certain things. Oh, smoking is bad, and then I know that I've tried it before, or oh, drinking is this, and then I know, so as far as, but as far as suicide goes, I would definitely explain to her why I don't think, that is the way, or why I think that that's wrong. I don't want to say it without, offending, you know, uh, anything, but I remember someone said to me, and it's a very common, I feel like it's a very common phrase that, don't make such a permanent decision on temporary circumstances. And so I would leave her with that, like suicide is a permanent decision. Anything that you're experiencing is temporary. So, and that's all I don't know what else I would say. You're loved, you are enough, and but I also know, battling my own issues in life, that even hearing how much you're loved and you're enough, until you work through that process and feel that, your mom saying it is your mom saying it. So it's a very hard thing. That's a very hard thing. You're gonna get me emotional, girl. Actually, all my questions are silly. Lightning round. Okay. Your child gets a tattoo at 16.
Cool.
Done. I mean, what can you do at that point? I would
Yeah.
say I hope that it's something that you can live with for the rest of your life. Like, but it's done, so there's no need to be upset about it.
Yeah. Okay, here's a pseudo serious one. You find that your child is using some kind of substance to focus or, be better at something as far as school or at, sports go or anything like that, Adderall, or you find out that they have some kind of substance abuse.
I'm calling my mama.
Therapy might definitely be an option, but I would also try to get their feelings on it. Like, everything always leads back to having a talk with them. Like, why do you feel like you must do this? Why didn't you come talk to us about whatever, and just kind of see where that leads you.
Because kids' logic is completely different from adults' logic at various ages of their life. So yeah, I get that, talking to them about it and, saying why, asking the question. Rashawn?
Let's see. So this actually happened to me. And it's a silly one. Well, it's not really silly, but it might be silly. You back over your dog with your kids in the car.
You're so cynical.
Well, how is that silly, Rashawn?
That's so sad. I always get afraid that I'm going to back over one of your cats too, and now you just really messed me up. And Lay's always in the car when I come to your house. She'd be devastated.
Listen. Okay, so if my husband isn't in the car with me, I'm thinking I'm going to keep going and I'm going to call my husband and be like, listen, I'm talking in code here. I need you to follow me. This is what just happened. I need you to handle this. We're going to tell the boys the dog ran away.
Honestly and truly, I tell Lay the truth. It's to a fault sometimes, but I would just be like, babe, she has this little pink camera and she took pictures for months with it. First time all those pictures got deleted, Nick did it by accident. Second time, I did it. It was like I ran over the dog. I was like, Right, I'm so sorry. I deleted 400 something pictures of hers. I was so sad. I was sad all day about it. I mean, literally sad all day about it. And I was just like, oh man, but I had to tell her the truth. And so of course now it's like, oh mommy, don't press that button because you might delete all my pictures again.
Yeah, that's the thing. Kids are never gonna let you forget that stuff. But my mom backed over our dog once. Luckily the dog lived and didn't really hurt. Like but it freaked her out so much. And we never let her forget it. We never let her forget it. Because she's also the only one in the house that hated the dog. So yeah, okay. Accidentally backed over the dog.
Yeah. Well, guys, I am going to conclude it with that. And typically how we like to conclude our we've been doing a little podcast privately, is just a note to our future self. So I want you to just give a one-liner to, is it to our future self or our past self? Our future self to our past self?
I think it changes each week.
What'd you say?
I think it changes each week, so we can do future this week.
Okay, so, well, how could we say something to our...
You can say something to your future self.
Go for it. Go for it.
Go for it. That's mine. Go for it. Don't doubt yourself. Keep going.
I'm going to remind you of that. next Friday.
What's next Friday?
I don't know.
Oh, I was like, no, I'm serious. That's my, because oftentimes I get in my head and you start getting these thoughts and imposter syndrome is real. And my thing is, Diary, stop that. Go for it. Every time you've proven yourself, go for it. Stop it. Don't doubt yourself. Just do it. If you mess up, so what? You're human. Pick yourself up. Keep going.
Marlena?
Um, I'd say, remember when you were afraid what was gonna happen here?
Yeah.
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 Definitely a reflection.
Yeah. Mine will be it's okay, eat the brownie. It'll nourish your body the same way that salad would.
Goodbye, Diary.
Mine is it's okay. Let them be disappointed.
Yay, I like that one.
That's good.
Well, guys, thank you for tuning in to our first intentional conversation. I hope that we will, just educate some people on parenting, on wellness, on mental health, on children, on Black children, on Black moms, on, not all Black moms and Black children are going to be on this forum, but just to say it for us, this group here, all the things we talked about, I hope we are extending out some laughter to people that may need it during this time of quarantine. And I hope that we also bring some comfort to people, letting them know that they're not the only ones that experience certain things. And that's a huge thing for me, is that you're not alone. There are other people out there that are experiencing the same things you go through. You ain't special. I didn't freeze, okay? So I'm gonna end it with that, and I hope you guys have a good night. Thank you guys for giving me a whole hour. I was like 30 minutes, a whole hour of your time to sit and talk and really just, just have fun.
Thanks for having us.
Right.
Thank you, Diary.
Bye, guys.
Bye, y'all.
Okay, so this is when I feel real old. I'm logging out from all of this stuff.
Oh my God.
Night.